thank you for joining me, Singh, for another episode of Positive Minds on the Seek channel. Positive Minds is a program on which I bring on experts and inspirational people to give us tips and ideas of how we and the people around us can better our lives. For constant motivation, you may follow me on Twitter at jagsing_I_can. And recently I wrote my book, Unbreakable. Unbreakable is a book about my personal experiences throughout my childhood regarding hate crime, anti-bullying, mental health issues and well-being. And all these subjects and many more are very close to my heart, and that's why I do what I do here on the Seek channel. Today, I am very happy to say that there are many charities in this country, United Kingdom and around the world, that are going out of their way to support children who are suffering from bullying or neglect, and parents and teachers. And such an organisation which is doing a great job out there is Kidscape. And I'm very happy to say today that I have the CEO of Kidscape with us, Lauren Seager-Smith, who will be speaking about the great work her and her charity are doing. Lauren, thank you very much for coming on Positive Minds today.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
Excellent, excellent. Lauren, there we go, picture of Lauren. Lauren, thank you for joining us. So, Lauren, please tell me and the viewers about the amazing work that you and your colleagues are doing for Kidscape, please.
So Kidscape was founded in 1985 by a social worker in London, and the two things she was seeing in her practice were child abuse and bullying. And back in the 80s, neither of those things were particularly discussed in public. And so she was a real pioneer in raising awareness of child abuse and of bullying. And so Kidscape, ever since then, has been providing particularly practical assistance for children and families who've been impacted and are being impacted by bullying in all its forms.
Excellent, excellent. What kind of services do you provide from Kidscape to parents, guardians and children out there, please, Lauren?
So Kidscape work with children of all ages, right from preschool through to young adulthood. We work with parents and carers, and we work with schools. So we think all three are really important in terms of keeping children safe. So we deliver practical workshops in the community to support children and families. We deliver prevention work in schools. We run a parent advice line, and we do lots of training for about 3,000 professionals every year.
Excellent, superb, superb. Helen, through my experience, what I found is that sometimes children, if they've got issues in their life, they have problems speaking to the teachers or their parents or the people around them. How can Kidscape help with this?
Yeah, so one of the things we do actually is run a peer mentoring program in schools. It's really important to, like you touched on, a lot of children won't necessarily talk to parents, but they will speak to each other. So it's about empowering young people to really be able to recognise bullying and then to be able to stand up for one another and support one another in those circumstances, because the adults can't always be there.
Yeah, yes, right. What kind of support can Kidscape provide for not only the children, but the parents, the carers and the teachers? Is there any support available for them? Because obviously you guys are the experts, okay, because you're doing it out there and you're living it every day. What kind of advice and support can you provide for these people?
Yeah, well, firstly, I just think it's really important for parents and carers to feel empowered. So, the first thing to say for anyone out there whose children are being bullied or have gone through bullying is that the law is on your side. There's a legal duty on schools to prevent all forms of bullying and harassment. There's also a duty that under the Equality Act to protect children from a race and faith background from bullying. And so it's really important to kind of arm parents with that knowledge and then support them to have positive conversations with schools to resolve a situation. So the Kidscape website has lots of advice for parents, but we also run a parent advice line during the week for parents that would like to talk a situation through in confidence with Kat, our amazing parent support advisor.
Excellent. And you say it's bullying is actually against the law. Now, going back to the 70s and 80s, it was the norm for me to get picked on in school because obviously the laws weren't there. There was no protection. And I've said this many times. I only wished I would have seen one poster of anti-bullying or Kidscape to say, contact us for support. none of that was available. And it makes me feel really good that today there is actually against the law to hurt someone's feelings, to make them feel down. And that's something I'm sure that you promote throughout your training.
Yeah, absolutely. It's making people, aware of what their rights are, and also, as you're well aware from your own experience when we've chatted in the past, some bullying also moves into criminal behaviour. And just because something happens in school doesn't make it any more right. And sometimes things in the school playground, physical assault in the school playground is overlooked. So again, peer-to-peer abuse is now named in school guidance when it comes to safeguarding. And so again, it's really important for parents to be aware of that, and for children, so that you know your rights, that it's your legal right to be safe from harm in school.
Excellent, thank you. Also, tell me a bit about the workshops that Kidscape do. I understand you guys got some tremendous workshops going on.
Yeah, so for about 16 years, we've been running ZAP workshops, which are for children and families who are going through a bullying situation. And they teach a range of skills, the ZAP tools, to help children manage a bullying situation. Bullying is all about an imbalance of power. And if you can support young people with their confidence, with their assertiveness, you can actually shift that. And we found that 72% of children that attend those workshops report really rapid reductions in experiences of bullying, because they've just gone into school feeling, do you know what, I don't have to put up with this anymore. So we would really encourage, again, anybody that would benefit from that to visit Kidscape website and find out more.
Excellent. So, okay, there you guys. There you go, guys. The Kidscape website. Just type in it. It's got some great stuff going on there. And back to what you just said there, Lauren. I've recently been running some equality and diversity sessions with some major organisations, and this is with adults. And what surprised me, and I'm hearing this quite a lot, is that a lot of people say to me that at workplaces, when they do experience some bullying or they see something which isn't right or incorrect, they ignore it or they walk away. It's the safest thing to do. Now, through my own experiences, I've always stood up, obviously because of the childhood I had, and I tell my children the same thing, and I'm sure you do as well, that do not tolerate it. And I tell these individuals when I speak to them, and these are grown people I'm talking to, that the more you tolerate it, the more stronger the intimidation becomes and the bullying comes. And the response I got was that, oh, no, we'll turn the other way and walk away. But can we all make a difference by standing up, reporting, doing something about it?
Absolutely, because the reality is that those people who are abusing others, and are being aggressive towards others, are in the minority. But if the majority don't challenge it and don't say anything, that minority think that behaviour is okay. And we've seen a lot of examples of that in the news recently. Actually, you need the majority to stand up and say, that's not right, we're not going to accept that, to get rid of that minority. And so it's a real challenge, I think, sometimes in our culture, where people would prefer not to say anything, but we
Yeah.
desperately need people to say something, to call it out. And if you don't feel comfortable or safe doing that, at least show the person on the receiving end that you're with them. Just to change the conversation, help them leave the situation, walk, just roar alongside them. There's been some great examples on public transport where people have just simply sat next to somebody or started talking to somebody to help keep them safe with that situation. So there are a number of things that we can do.
Excellent, brilliant, thank you. Please tell me about your bullying awareness training that you provide for teachers, parents, and guardians, please.
Yeah, so we do lots of work with adults around helping them recognise bullying and keep children safe. We run the bullying training, awareness training in schools, which is about recognising different types of bullying, whether face-to-face, online. Again, some of the ways that you can support young people to themselves to recognise bullying and take action, such as what we're describing if you witness a bullying situation. But we've also recently launched community leader training, which is for any adult that works with children and young people. So again, if you have youth workers or others who regularly work with young people out there, we are delivering that community leader training at the moment in London and in South Wales. Again, would really urge people to get in touch. And that training, again, helps you recognise bullying and support young people who are going through a bullying situation.
Okay, and all this information is available on your website, Lauren, yeah?
Right.
Okay, superb, superb. What kind of feedback do you get from these sessions, Lauren? What's the feedback been with the parents and the guardians, the carers?
Yeah, I think well, firstly with parents, a huge sense of relief, because very often when you're a parent going through this, and we're both parents, you blame yourself. You think, is there more I could have done, or should have I said something differently? Why haven't I been able to protect my child from this? So first of all, the parents are just so relieved to meet other parents in the same boat, realize this can happen to anybody.
Yeah.
That and 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 then be able to kind of share their stories with one another and in a safe space and talk about the fact that love is on your side, what that means, and those strategies for helping your child grow in assertiveness and confidence to better be able to resist a bullying situation and seek the help that they need at school.
Talking about the blame thing, I get approached because of the stuff I do, the books, the talks. I get approached by a lot of parents. Back to what you're saying there, Lauren. And do you know what? You're right. A lot of parents say to me that they blame themselves, that their child's going through bullying or neglect, or the struggles they're having at school. And that's when I say to them that you need to contact um, uh, Kidscape or organisations that can support you, because some parents do actually know that their children suffer from bullying, and they keep quiet because they think to themselves, it's their fault, and they're kind of like banging their head against the wall. But what you're saying there, I think, is amazing, because you actually got the sessions where these parents can come on, and you can, you can professionally deliver the message to them and make them feel that it's not their fault, it's the environment, and you're going to show them a way to get through this.
Yeah, absolutely. And I can really reassure parents as well to say that we see people from absolutely all walks of life, be that state schools, be that independent schools, boys, girls, different faiths, different races, you name it, we see it. Bullying in some respects doesn't discriminate, happens absolutely everywhere. And again, it's a real leveler too, when people come together and they look around the room and they realize that people are from all different backgrounds, and that actually this is nothing to do with us. This is to do with the situation that our child's in, and the people around our child. But there is something that we can do about it, and it's not a fixed state. I think that's the worry, that my child's going to be stuck in this situation. That school life's going to be awful. We're there to say you can come through the other side, and we'll support you through the other side. And this isn't inevitable.
Amazing words, amazing words. Guys, if you've just joined us, you're logged on to Positive Minds. And today with me, I have Lauren Seager-Smith from Kidscape, letting us know what the amazing work that they're doing. And it's amazing. It's really good. Back to what you were saying there, Lauren. Lauren, about bullying, what I found from my own experiences is that there's different forms of bullying. Some can be verbal, right, where someone calls everyone a name at school. Some can be physical, a little punch and a dig. And to my level, it was the highest level ever, where we got ran home every day, got chased, got beat up. I've found over the years that bullying has no limit, whether it's big or small. I believe, and I told my children this, is that if anyone makes you feel uncomfortable in school, whether verbally, physically, that is classed as bullying. It hasn't got no level. Would you agree?
Exactly, and I think it's a very different experience for everybody. Like you said, we don't know what it's like to be in somebody else's shoes and what they're experiencing, and sometimes children can be very very subtle as well,
Yeah,
in
yeah,
terms of these kind of peer dynamics and pressures. We're hearing more and more as well, of course, about this being played out online, and quite a lot that's through private messaging groups. And it's
yeah,
things like children suddenly being cut out of a group conversation and then they don't understand why, and then not being brought back in again. And these aren't things that our generation necessarily understand and can relate to in the same way. So it's really important to give the message to your child that if this is impacting you and it's not making you feel good, then that's bullying, and you need to come and talk to me about it, and we'll work together to find solutions and take you out the other side of this. But it's always just so important to listen, and really listen to what the impact of the situation is.
excellent, excellent. I mean, because when I've come across a lot of situations where when I was being bullied, and I did speak to my parents about it, and they didn't know how to deal with it, Lauren. And not because they were horrible parents, because they weren't educated enough to do so. They didn't know what to do. And we're talking about, you talking about Equality Act. It was non-existent at the time. And now we are in a time, not only in this country but all around the world, where I'm telling everyone, I'm sure Kidscape will constantly be sending this message out to everyone, is that nobody needs to sit back and say that there is no help available out there. All they've got to do is pick up the phone or log onto your website, and support is available. Is that correct, Lauren?
Yeah, absolutely. And also, I mean, the other thing to bear in mind is that every school deals with bullying differently. There's not a legal statutory guidebook. There is statutory guidelines around what should happen, but this particular government are very resistant to tell schools how to do it. That means that you have some schools that are absolutely amazing, are all over it. You have others who will say something along the lines of, "We have no bullying here," and won't necessarily take children and parents seriously or at their word. And so please do seek help, because we're used to dealing with all forms of schools, to help with some of those arguments and some of that resistance. And also, it's worth saying children can also be bullied by school staff, which is absolutely illegal. And so, if your child is being targeted by teachers and by school staff, please don't think that that's something again that they've done and they should just keep their head down. Please do seek help and advice in that situation.
Yeah. Because I'm going to use the word crank, but it cranks me slightly, Lauren, to know that when certain schools say, "Oh, we've got no bullying in our school, it doesn't exist," it cranks me a little bit because I don't believe that. Okay, because I am a strong believer, like you said earlier, that where there's a whole bunch of children, bullying will exist. Some form of bullying will exist. Um, a lot of schools have, like you're saying, there's some brilliant schools out there doing some great stuff about bullying. And I understand that the teachers and the schools and the head teachers have got high agendas and they've got to follow certain rules and regulations. But I still don't think schools do enough to get kids, organisations like yourself, in the school on a constant basis to refresh the children's minds to say that it is unacceptable behaviour.
Yeah, that's right. And of course, the funding for children's services has dramatically declined in recent years. So, whereas previously schools would get a lot of support at a local authority level, schools are now struggling with very little funding for external support. We know a lot of youth services have closed down. So, they're really reliant on charities such as Kidscape now, to do all we can to support them through this, because schools, they have a lot on their plates, particularly at the moment. And as much as we talk about the fact that teachers need to lead on protecting children's mental health, they're not experts in mental health, and they do need support. And a lot of schools, to be honest, are very open and willing to have us come in and support them. So it's just, it's so important as well that schools reach out and speak to us, because there's no shame. Just like you said, bullying happens absolutely everywhere. It happens where there are people. What's important is that you take action both to prevent it and to respond to it. And so, again, we'd really urge schools to get in contact with us to see the support that we can give.
Yeah, because as I said, over the years, there has been progression. Definitely, I've noticed that there's been progression in this country, and organisations like yourself are going out there and sending a great message. But I still think a lot more needs to be done, and that's why I brought you on here today, Lauren, because I want everyone listening out there to know that if you're a parent or a guardian and your child has experienced any sort of bullying, then contact Kidscape. Yeah, they're there to help you. They'll be more than happy to hear from you. Lauren, how has the response to Kidscape been during lockdown from parents, guardians, or children? What kind of experiences can you share with us during the lockdown?
Yeah, it's been really interesting. Obviously, closed for such a long period of time, some forms of bullying decreased, because actually the majority of bullying tends to be face to face in school. And so, while we still had children and families attending workshops, actually what they were telling us was that home is their safe place. And they felt a lot safer now they weren't in school. And then, of course, very high anxiety levels at the thought of going back to school,
Yes.
particularly when they didn't have good relationships with people before. Also, some of that bullying, I'm sorry to say, has followed children into lockdown online. We've seen some really interesting research from Scotland saying exactly that children that were being bullied in school have continued to be bullied online during lockdown. Also, children seeing very high levels of racial abuse online during lockdown. These children in Scotland, 45% of them had seen racial abuse online, had seen sexist abuse, had seen homophobic abuse, had seen all sorts. So I think there's something to do with the general culture that our children are growing up in as well, and the very high levels of hate that they're being exposed to. So, while it was a reprieve for some children, of course, what we're trying to do now is the best we can to support them going back into school. we've launched a transition program to do exactly that. So we've been delivering these RISE transition workshops to children to help them with those relationships as they go back into school. It's weird for adults seeing other adults again. So when you imagine what it's like for peer groups of children seeing each other after so long, it's not easy for any child or young person.
Excellent, excellent. Lauren, we met a little while back. We've known each other for a little while, but the first time I met you was when I did an interview on Seek Channel a long time ago, a few years back. And I remember the information that you gave me stuck in my head. And it's something which I wish somebody had told me when I was 8, 9 years old. And that was that nobody should ever suffer in silence. And I've carried that, and that's one message I've been delivering, and that is correct, isn't it, Lauren? Yeah, nobody has the right to suffer in silence.
Absolutely. And what we say to people is sometimes children are given the message to tell someone. And we could talk for a long time about snitching culture and the challenges that older young people have around that. But also, a child might tell someone and then not get the response that they need. And so we've changed that now to get help, so that whatever help you need, whoever's going to be able to give you that help, give you that advice. That might be another young person, that might be another adult outside of your family, but get help and don't stop until you get it. Because sometimes at school, you'll tell a teacher and they won't believe you or they won't listen to you. Don't stop there. Don't stop until you get help, because you're absolutely right. No one should suffer in silence. Every child has a right to feel safe in school. So do get that help.
Okay, so you're saying that people should reach out, get their help, and do not suffer in silence. During lockdown as well, Lauren, I know the cyberbullying, because children have, as you're saying, children have been able to connect to each other as much. The cyberbullying, that's an issue as well, because that goes on. And what is your advice to someone who is suffering from cyberbullying?
It's a really challenging situation because quite often it's your peer group. So the most difficult form of cyberbullying is cyberbullying that's being done by other people in your class. So it's not as simple as something that you can just switch off from. You're probably going to go back and see those same people the next day. So a lot of the same advice would apply. Get help. Try and distance yourself from those groups. You may not be able to do it for very long because that's your social support, but take a bit of space. Be careful about how you're feeling late at night when emotions are very high. Just create a bit of distance before you respond. And also, if it's a case of trolling, they want a response from you. So it's really important to be aware of that. And often the very best thing you can do is in that situation is to give nothing at all, because then there's nothing for them to get hold of. But it's certainly not easy.
Yeah, you're 100% right, because obviously having children myself, my daughters receive certain messages sometimes which are obviously in the bullying category, and she gets wound up and she wants to reply and hit back, and I say to her, don't get to their level. Don't do that, because obviously that will show that you're getting to their level and you want to fight on the cyberbullying, and that's not the correct way to do it. You are 100% right, Lauren. The best thing to do is not to respond, not to get to level. And how about reporting it to the parents or the guardians that, wait a minute, this blah blah's sent me this message through?
Yeah, and also of course you can block people. You can also mute people now on a lot of sites, which is really good for young people because they may not want to block someone because someone will turn around and say, you blocked me the next day in school. But they can mute them so they just don't have to see anything that they're saying. And sometimes that can help you just, again, create that bit of distance from what's going on. Because also, a lot of young people that wouldn't normally bully someone face to face get pulled in online because of that, because they're not reading the person's reaction and emotion. And they'll say things they wouldn't necessarily say normally. And so again, if you just back off from it, quite often that will quieten down and then they'll move on to something else. But again, the more you feed it, the more response you'll get.
Exactly. Well, Lauren, you've been on a great mission, and ever since I've known you, you have been marching forward, carrying the flag for anti-bullying. I mean, what are the plans for Kidscape going forward? What have you guys got planned?
Oh, well, good timing because we're just going to launch into our new strategy and our new business plan, particularly as a result of COVID and the changes we're looking at. And so of course, the main goal is to reach as many children and families throughout England and Wales that need our help in the different ways. But we want to reach a lot more into more minority communities. We know that they're more likely to be impacted by bullying, but that's why, we want to work with people to really understand those communities' needs. And so people can, it's, for example, it's brilliant being on here tonight because, we want to let as many children as possible know about us, to know that they can get help from us. So the more children we can reach, the better. But that also takes a fundraising strategy. So in difficult times, so raising the funds we need to reach as many children as we can.
Excellent, excellent. Lauren, listen, thank you so much for coming on Positive Minds today and give us this great information. So there you guys go. See Kidscape's been on it today. If you're a parent, you're a guardian, get onto their website, support them, and, we can get through this. And as Lauren has said, nobody should ever suffer in silence. Lauren, thank you so much for coming on today.
Oh, thank you. It's a pleasure.
And keep up the great work, okay?
Thank you.
Okay, guys, so there you have it, another episode of Positive Minds. Keep yourself motivated and inspired. And listen, take care of yourself and never, ever suffer in silence. Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh. Cool. Lauren, thank you very much.
Yay! Oh, pleasure.
Hey. God, you're such a natural.
Oh, how many years have I been doing this now?
I'm just a rookie. You just go smoothly with it. Brilliant. Excellent. Thank you very much for that.
Oh, it's a pleasure. It's lovely. And it's so nice to be back in touch again. So I hope there's lots more we can do together. I know you've been talking to Ashley, which is great. And when Ash said you'd got in touch, I was like, yay!
I've read the email that you sent me about the Jewish community, and
Yeah.
I think I'm going to approach that in a way. I've got an idea. Give me, and when do you need it by?
Oh, I've got to get something over to them the beginning of next week, but I just need a few sentences, really.
No pressure, yeah?
No pressure. And also, any introductions you can do for us in the Sikh community, because we'd love to do the same thing with youth leaders in the Sikh community. Would be great.
Cool, not a problem.